Hello. So I'm on to video number 2, and oh, a little backstory on this one. I told a very good friend of mine, Josh Picard, subscribe to him, that I could write to anything. I guess I was kind of being like a cocky bastard at the time, but so I said, literally just say anything. Give me a line, and I will write to it. And he turned and looked at me and said, "There's an elephant with a fire poker on a magic carpet." Alright. So I went home, and or what was my home at that time, and cranked this out. But you have to bear with me. Okay, first off, the names are like mashups of our names, and some of the names are just, I don't even know where they came from. And it's really goofy. It's really goofy, but people seem to like it. It was like my most popular poem for on this site for a really long time. So here is, there's an elephant with a fire poker on a magic carpet. There's an elephant with a fire poker on a magic carpet. And there was something about this typical scene that made me not want to part it. I jumped aboard. He put his trunk around me and laughed and said, "Hello, friend." I was bewildered as to what would become of this journey, but I already wished it'd never end. I asked the fan where we were going and if there was a fire to poke. He told me, "Rhino, we're to save a sacred city before it all goes up in smoke. My name's Vishwa, and the city of Ramthu has been my home since birth for many, many years. Unfortunately, this thriving place seems to now be consumed by tears. Lechunga's an evil man that's recently taken over, a vicious tool with relentless rule. He's hurting all with no discrimination, and that just isn't cool. This is why I've been searching for someone to come to our city's aid. I just fear there's not much time before the hope starts to completely fade." Inspired, I jumped up. He yelled, "Sit down! You surely don't want to fall." I obliged and said, "Well, let's talk about seatbelts later. Either way, I'll risk it all." He sensed that the time was right and swooped down into the town. After seeing the drained expressions on various faces, I couldn't wait to face the clown. I said I wanted a weapon to teach him a lesson, because I'm not much of a choker. Immediately said, "This is for you," and presented a different fire poker. I've never felt more prepared to fight a battle for a city, and serve up some similar medicine to the man that knows no pity. I gathered some locals together to share the plan I had. Vishwa and I were to break into the palace that night, though normally I'd considered that bad. Thankfully, they had an elephant entrance in the back of the structure. Inside, we were confronted by a captivating woman who said she'd help, but I wasn't sure if I could trust her. Nearby guards were alarmed, and the girl ran out of the room. Rear to rear was the elephant and I, seemingly left to our doom. Wildly flailing our fire pokers against the mob, we began to push. Before we knew it, we had beaten our adversaries and put an end to the ambush. What followed was a series of hallways and locked doors with uncertainty in where to go. Then, after catching a glimpse of fire in the distance, it seemed, now we know. There it is. Just beyond it was a huge circular room with the ruler at his desk. He stood up as if he knew we were there and said, "This is your final test." He spoke of knowing of all our plans and capturing almost all involved. Despite every word he said, we knew our plans had not dissolved. He pulled a lever as we grew closer and the floor in front of us had dropped. He then let out a hearty laugh, thinking we had been stopped. Vishwa and I looked at each other and he nodded as he grabbed me with his trunk. Vish threw me across the gap in the floor and I flew with a lot of spunk. I looked into Lechunga's eyes and he looked as though he didn't know what to feel. Gazing back into mine, I know he could tell shit just got real. Reaching at his side, he grabbed out his sword as I charged at him with much discord, and we both felt the surge of vibrations as our metal clashed. I told him, "Punk, you can consider yourself a potato, 'cause you're gonna get mashed." I swung and whapped him across the face, which seemed to put him in a daze. But before falling over, he splashed my face with a powder and my world vanished in a haze. I eventually came to Lechunga's screaming and the girl's beauty in my face. He was screaming to be let out, for she put him in a chain-like embrace. The floor was back, Vishwa was there, as I was surrounded by a crowd of stares. The people were free and overcame the strife. All the hope had come back to life. I said, for now, Lechunga should live out his days getting pies thrown at him at the people's discretion. He will be faced with nothing left to taste and know the true meaning of oppression. The people were joyous and excited, but wanted me as their king. I turned to the girl and said, if you were my queen, it'd make my heart sing. She blushed and accepted, but I said I'd only rule if all the people were by my side. After all the cheers and emotions that were felt, I said, let's all go on a celebratory magic carpet ride. Now with seatbelts. Yeah. So that's an elephant with a fire poker on a magic carpet. Hope you enjoyed. Adios.